Welcome everyone to episode 5 of Presence of Mind. How are you all doing? I hope you're all doing well out there in staying chill land is what we need to talk about this week, because there's been a lot of really good conversations about mental health, with this being mental health awareness month. So lots of great things in tow. I am your host, one of your hosts, Khalif Adams, and I'm joined with Alana Pierce and Greg Miller. Alana and Greg, how are you both doing?
Excellent. I'm pretty stressed at the moment, actually.
What? Why are you stressed, Alana? What's happening?
I fly to Australia tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, that'll do it. That'll do
which I'm very excited about, but it meant that I have to go get a rapid test. I have to get like all of these various injections that I need, including whooping cough for because my sister's having a baby, which is why I'm going home. So you have to make sure that you're vaccinated. It's just so many things to do, and I still haven't downloaded all the games I intend to download for the 2-week quarantine.
Big stressor.
But is Mass Effect gonna fit on my little Xbox Series S? So just a lot of stuff to manage. It's pretty overwhelming, but we're doing all right.
Is it on top of all that the emotions? How long has it been since you've seen your family?
I haven't been home since 2018, so yeah, that's the last time I saw any family members. It's been a while. I'm very excited to go home. Not looking forward to spending 2 weeks locked in a hotel. And you don't even know what kind of hotel. They just kind of pick you up. The military basically picks you up and then takes you. So you get locked in a hotel and then you leave and they're like $2,000, please.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty intense.
Wow.
So managing all of that right now, but I'm doing okay.
Yeah. Greg, how are you holding up? How are you doing?
A tough act to follow. I'm a little tired. Maybe a little hungry, but other than that,
cranky,
just puttering along. I got my second COVID vaccine last weekend, so I'm in the downswing here of these 2 weeks before I can go out and lick handrails and have a great time. But
you are going to be a dad, though.
I am going to be a dad. That has happened since our last time we talked on Presence of Mind. Yeah.
Well, I assume it happened before that, but
the kid was conceived before then, but the announcement was. And you were right, Alana, for sure. Last time when we were doing Presence of Mind, and I was asking questions about kids, I was very interested for a different reason. You said I don't have kids yet.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
How are you?
Out there.
I'm decent. I was just saying right before we started the show that I'm a little bit perturbed. I had some not great news come my way before the show. So it was one of those things where you try to hit that curve and try to figure out good ways to kind of not only get ready for the show, because I'm always happy to see all of you and especially our guest today, but you always wind up having this energy where you have to kind of get it out of your body before you start doing a thing. So this is going to be a great show because I get a chance to work through a little bit of that stuff while we're all here together, while trying to figure out ways to talk about being positive. And again, thank you all for being here. We're doing the show a little bit differently this week, not because of anything super, super wild in the background, but we're streaming to all of our particular channels. So you can watch this not only here on the Cloud9 channel, but you can watch this over at Kind of Funny channel and Alana's channel as well. We're doing the triple simulcast as well. So we're making that happen. So again, thank you to our friends over at Kaiser Permanente and Cloud9 for, again, putting together Presence of Mind, which is all about giving you strategies to deal with and learn about good ways to deal with mental health conversations. So we're super excited to be bringing that again to you this week. Again, we do this every other week. So next week we will be off, but the week after that, we'll be right back here with more dopeness for you all at home. So let's see. Today's conversation is all about staying positive, which is a thing that I'm sure, we've had a lot of conversations over the past couple of weeks about different tactics and different parts of the conversation that we're all kind of going through and our guests have been going through in terms of ideas around mental health. But staying positive is a thing that is really difficult to try to figure out ways to stay in the pocket, right? Of trying to find ways to not only capture that good positive spirit that you kind of take with you when things are happening, but to maintain those parts of that energy that goes along with it. Greg, I'm curious to hear your thoughts about, when you're feeling down, what are some of the things that kind of get you back into a good space and how do you kind of stay there?
Man, I think when I'm feeling down and not positive, because for me, what I always talk about on this topic is that being positive is a choice. And it is not an easy choice, especially on the internet, especially when, I know we talk about all the time of our experience compared to a viewer's, and like it's all universal, where if it's somebody being mean to me on Twitter because of a review, it's the same as you being in a chat and someone yelling at you for a different reason, right? Or you getting into an argument on a subreddit, or somebody coming at you really fierce. And there's that moment you have, that's that knee-jerk reaction that I feel, at least for me, is the instinct of, oh, you want to go, well, here you, and you start to write the response and come back at them. And it took me years to understand, of like, I don't want to be that person, and I don't want to do that, and I don't want to get down in the mud and wrestle with pigs. And so it is a choice to stay above it, right? And it is a hard choice because you want to swing back. But the thing I found is that when I start getting into that negative place, for me, it's disconnecting from what's making it negative. Like if it is me going through Twitter and something on Twitter is getting me mad, let's get off of Twitter. And if I can't get off of Twitter, let's mute that thread. And if it's me on Reddit going through and getting into not an argument, but seeing something that's a lie being spread around that's making me angry, whether it's somebody about a review or something said on a podcast, I'm like, let's push away from this. And usually, obviously, when you step away and you go into the world, you go into something else, you focus on the positive things in your life and the things you need to help make more positive and the change you want to be. That is what helps me, give it a bit of a worldview, right? Step away from it and see the forest for the trees.
Yeah. Alana, what are your thoughts about that in terms of finding some good spaces to find positivity and also kind of staying in that space?
The first part is that I 100% am with Greg. I try to limit how much I use social media in general, and that's not even if I see something that's bad. I just try not to be on it very much. I've got Twitter down to 5 minutes a day.
Wow.
The only exception is if I'm in an Uber or I'm waiting for something where I can't do anything else. But otherwise, I just don't use it. I have draft tweets that I will just throw one out and then walk away. And that's made my life, I think, a lot more positive in general. And I think especially during the pandemic, when there's so much information all the time and a lot of it feels very negative or a lot of it feels conflicting, I think it gets really overwhelming really fast. And it can just be hard to take in a lot of stuff. And it is a challenge to decide, am I choosing to be blissfully ignorant to some things? Am I choosing not to read about everything that's going on with Israel and Palestine right now because I don't have the misfortune of being there, that I can check out? And it is a thing where I feel like I have to check my own privilege on that all the time and assess how I feel about that. But I feel like not being on social media is great for me. On the side of that, I'm sure I've said this on the show before, but a thing that has really helped me make social media more positive is doing charity work. And I think part of that is because you're trying to do something positive. So you're putting something positive out, but you get so much positivity back from that. Like when I've done streams where I've hit, I don't know, $50,000 or something, and then I sit there and I think about how many people were involved in doing something positive and caring for other people in trying to make that happen. It's thousands and thousands of people that make up a $50,000 donation. That I feel like has really helped me with my relationship with social media in general, and definitely helped me during the pandemic a lot last year, where I was just in this little studio apartment by myself, that I felt connected to people. I recognized that there was a lot of good out there. I felt like, just me actively choosing to be positive. Like Greg said, I think happiness is a choice too, in a lot of ways. So me actively choosing to do that meant that I got to see so much of that back. And sure, there are occasionally people who'll be like, oh, it's the wrong charity. How do we know you're not keeping money? Whatever. But for the most part, overwhelmingly positive. It just takes effort to try to be positive.
Yeah. I think a lot of people talk about it in the negative sense when they use it, right? But for me, it's very much you reap what you sow kind of thing. Yeah. And the fact that I try to be positive, for the most part, brings out positivity around me and people. And there's always people who want to come at you and take a shot at you. And again, that works for anything in your life. But I think by not getting in there and telling the world I want to go 10 rounds with everybody who wants to step up and be mad about something, it's easier to dodge. Khalif, what's it like for you? You're talking right now about not being in a positive place. Like, how do you turn that around?
Hostess Cupcakes is my friend. I love them. They make
you eat it.
I eat my shame and I eat my grief. I eat myself. I'm an emotional eater, which I didn't know I was until I went to Weight Watchers some years ago. And they helped me to kind of learn that, when I'm starting to get into a space that's not great, I will start to eat, and sweets are my Achilles heel in that way. For me, a lot of people don't know that I used to be an amazingly cynical person. It took a long time, and most people, they're like, Khalif, you're so positive, and you put out so much good energy into the world. And I'm like, that took a lot of work to get there. Like I was Captain Cynical for a long time. I was the Charlie Brown character with the cloud over my head all the time. Like, this is all terrible and everything sucks. But it took a long time to have some perspective to really understand of what, you know, I was hoping to see in the world. And again, that the idea of like, you want to be the thing that you want to see in the world, and trying to figure out ways to find good people around you, and removing negative people out of my circles was really, really helpful for doing that, to kind of get into that space and feel better. But I want to add in another voice to this conversation. We have a fantastic guest to be rocking with us for this episode of Presence of Mind. We have former Cloud9 member and now the head of Radiance GG. We have Hi Lamb. How are you doing, Hi? How's everything going?
Hello, everyone. I'm doing pretty well. Pretty chill day so far. Went to the dentist with my fiance. We had some shabu, played a little bit of League of Legends, and now I'm here excited to talk to you all.
That's an amazing date to go to the dentist. I appreciate that.
Good date. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's a date, but
the romantic day starts at the dentist and goes to shabu.
So for the folks who are not just coming to the stream and may not know of the amazing work that you've done in the competitive space, give the folks a little bit of information about you and some of the work you've done.
Right. So first off, is anyone else kind of bothered that I'm super off center from the camera? I can fix it. I can fix it if you give me like 5 seconds really quick, okay?
You're going to fix it as production tries to fix it too.
I got it.
It's going to cancel itself out.
We'll do it live.
Nailed it.
It's fine now, right? As long as they don't touch it, it should be good.
I love it.
Okay, perfect. Now that my OCD is taken care of, yeah, to give a bit of background on me, I originally played League of Legends professionally back in 2013. When Cloud9 first became a thing, I was part of the original roster. I played the mid lane for the team for about 2 to 3 years. Following that, I joined a few other teams, played for a while. In 2018, I decided to retire, which is crazy because I think I'm young, probably compared to some of y'all. But compared to like the esports community, I'm kind of like a boomer for them. So it's like, really, I'm like in this weird position where like I've retired from like my main thing and now I'm working towards my next thing. But it's like, I'm still pretty, I'm under 30, you know? So I went for content creation for a while, did some streaming. I started my own esports organization called Radiance. I've been running that. And currently I do that along with working on the LCS analyst desk. So I basically talk about the games that happened in the LCS, who won, who played bad, things like that. And that's what I've been basically working with so far.
I love that. And again, it's one of those cool things to see, you know, you talk about, well, you know, I'm a little bit of a boomer in this industry, and at least in this space, it gives me hope to know that there's a space for folks to kind of move, you know, through those conversations and through those spaces. We asked everyone else on the panel, you know, what is it to kind of find a way to continue to be positive and find good positive spaces for you at this point, you know, have moving from that competitive space to now being the head of an organization. What's that been like for you in terms of your journey? How are you keeping yourself positive and how are you kind of keeping yourself, you know, up when you're having some down times?
Well, for me, I have a bit of a different experience than that from most people. I've generally, you know, been a pretty positive / happy kind of person like my entire life. Mm-hmm. So it's hard for me to just be like, hey, you know, why are you not happy with your life? You know, it's just, I can't really go around and say that to people. It's hard for everyone to be happy. You know, it's not like everyone has that privilege where they don't have to worry about bills or worry about food, et cetera, and things like that. When those things are taken care of, it's a lot easier to focus on yourself and be like, all right, what makes me happy? Do I want to play a game? Does that make me happy? What about reading a book, et cetera, right? So for me, I've been pretty privileged to not have to worry about those things. So I just get to enjoy my hobbies or spend time with my friends to like, you know, be happy. But it's just, you have to find what works for you, right? Like whether that be playing a game, whether that be going for a walk, whatever you can do, you can go for it. And you won't always be happy, right? There's going to be times where life kicks you down. You're going to be on the ground. It's going to kick you again. And I don't think anyone expects you to be happy when you're getting kicked in the face or something like that, right? You kind of just got to step back up, and then there will be a point where you'll be happy again, right? And you just got to work towards that. Life won't always be happy, but you can do a lot to make it happy for yourself.
I love that.
You talk about being happy in these transitions, right? What did you find after you retired? Was that one? Did you have that moment afterwards of like, this is exactly what I wanted? Or was there that panic moment of like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing the thing I love?
Right. I would say at first, I was a bit bummed and sad because I had my place in the scene, right? Like I was a known figure. I played in the game. All my friends are doing it. Now that I'm stepping back from it, am I still going to be friends with these people? Have the friends I made still going to be my friends, even though I'm not like a part of that world, quote unquote? So there's definitely worries about the kind of stuff. But, when you're done doing something, it's always a way, like a door to open something new, right? Like it's a pretty cliche saying, but I'm a person that finds a lot of enjoyment in what I do, whether it be playing a game, whether it be building a company, or whether it be even doing like streaming and things like that. I'll make the most out of what I can and kind of just focus on that. Like, yes, I'm not playing anymore, but for me, I try to focus my energy and, channel my thoughts into what I'm doing next rather than what has happened already, since I can't change that, right? So a bit bittersweet, but I just look towards to what I can do.
When it comes to your role and experience at Cloud9 and in the gaming community in general, how difficult is it to build really positive relationships with teammates or with the community in general in an environment that can sometimes be toxic, obviously being as competitive as it is? Like, has that been a challenge or something that you tried to focus on?
I definitely think it's difficult when you're playing with 4 other people and you have like coaches and stuff. Like, yes, you all have the same goal and you want to win, but everyone has a different idea of how to get there, right? And you're going to have these disagreements. And it's important that when you do have these disagreements, you be mindful of how you say it, because even if you're right, if you're going about it the wrong way, the other person's not going to be very receiving of it, right? He might understand you're right, but he's not going to take it well because of the way you say it. So when working with a team, just be careful of like the way you say things. Try to think before you say it, and really just be mindful that like you all want the same thing, right? Like you want to win, you want to succeed together. And even if like your coworkers outside of that, you're still probably friends with each other. So it's just like, I would never want to do something to like purposely hurt my friend, like by saying something rude to them or being mean to them. So I would say the best way to go about it is just think before you talk.
I mean,
applies to everything, really.
That's great advice for everyone. Yeah,
no doubt. Seriously, it does like that. When you think back about the team structure in which you were in for most of your competitive spaces and competitive life, how did that translate from the coaches that you wind up having during the time? Do you feel like there were an ability to see that want for them to see you all do and kind of move in a positive space amongst your coaches? Or was that a thing you all kind of did amongst yourselves as the team? Was it encouraged by coaches and things like that? Or was it something where you had to kind of build that momentum up for yourselves?
Could you repeat that question one more time?
Yeah,
I don't really
yeah, for sure. Is what the positive spaces that you wound up finding yourself as a competitor?
Mm-hmm.
Was that kind of fostered by the teammates more, or was that kind of a part of the way you were all coached as well?
Right. So back in the earlier days of like when esports was still growing, League of Legends was still a growing sport, the coaches were there for not necessarily like teaching us how to play the game or even teaching us how to interact with each other. They're more so there for like getting us information on like the enemy teams, like what are they doing, what are they playing, check out these videos that you can study to like learn. So the entire team environment was kind of built by the players themselves. Luckily for all the original members of Cloud9, we had a pretty good environment, and it's easy to do that when you're consistently winning. I think our first season we're something like 25-3. Wow. So when you're winning like that, it's much easier to have a positive environment, and it's difficult to have a bad one because usually people are only going to be upset if they lose, right? There's not very many people that get mad when they win. There are some, but more often than not, they'll be happy that they won. So the environment was just easy for us to build because we were friends before we started playing professionally together. We were friends before we moved in together. And that friendship kind of lasted through the entirety of us playing. Even now to this day, like we're also pretty good friends with each other. So we didn't have too many disagreements as a team. Like we did have our fights and things like that, but that environment was just built based off of our friendship. And we're able to continue that throughout our length of playing.
My question on that is, you talk about, coming up through the ranks as a team again, for you retiring, how did that shift the dynamic between you guys being friends and teammates? Like, was it harder to stay in touch? Like, did they feel like you were abandoning them or anything like that? Did you have a conversation with everybody?
I think there was like an instance there where like maybe myself and a teammate, I thought that he was like pushing me off the team due to disagreements we have. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's him that did it. It's just like, the manager or the owners, the one that makes the final decisions, that kind of stuff. And I'm not going to take that personally, right? Like they want to win, and whatever they think is the best way to do it, I can't do much about it, right? Like if they think someone's better than me, fine, whatever, right? But you definitely become less close in a way. Because you're your roommates before that, right? Like we had a gaming house, we lived together, we ate together, spent time together. Now, obviously, we live in different places, so we don't spend as much time together. But they're still my really close friend. I've built so many memories with them. I haven't forgotten that, and I think it works vice versa. So I would say we're still good friends, but definitely don't spend as much time together. But I think that's just due to the nature of not living together.
Sure.
Such is life, pretty much. But I mean, you led them to 2 North America LCS championships and the World Championship stage. Is there anything where, esports in general is concerned, where like having successes like that and having wins, which is obviously really positive for a team, where people's egos start to get difficult to handle? And how do you kind of keep that in check for yourself? Like when you're so good at League, how do you make sure that you don't get like braggy or bodacious or arrogant about it and stay welcoming to new players or new people who might want to get involved in your community?
It's a pretty difficult thing, right? To like humble yourself when you're at like,
not being humble is hard.
Right. It takes a lot of introspection to be like, hey, like I'm good at this game, but like when you go to the world stage, someone's gonna be better than you there, right? Like there's always gonna be someone at the top, unless you're literally just the best person, which we weren't. So like there's always a hurdle that we have to climb past and overcome, right? So I think it just takes a bit of like self-introspection, be like, yes, it's good to be confident in your own play. It's good to be like happy with where you are, but always to strive to be more. Even if you think you're the best can always get better, right? So it's just kind of about grounding yourself and creating new goals. If you feel like you're the best in North America, which is perfectly fine to think that way, aim for something more and continue to keep moving that goalpost so that you never get like complacent with where you are. Because I think it's a good thing to like think that you're good, think that you're great. You kind of need that mentality to become the best, right? If you don't have confidence in yourself, it's hard for your teammates to have confidence in yourself. So it's kind of like a step-by-step process, and to continue to have that confidence. But once you reach that point where like you feel like you're the best, move that goalpost again and keep going forward.
You're totally right. Believing in yourself is an important thing. And I think it's something that we kind of like, especially now that it's mental health month, that I've seen a few people talk about a little bit, is we really discourage people from complimenting themselves.
Yeah, for sure.
Like so badly. And I know that I do it to myself all the time. Like the stuff that I say to myself on a stream or a let's play is like so mean. So mean to me. In a way that I'm like, extensive self-deprecation that I'm like, is this potentially bad for my mental health? Do I need to take time to be like, oh, that was a good shot, Alana, rather than just being like, wow, your aim is terrible, you're a trash person, what are you doing, all of the time? And I definitely agree. I'm glad you pointed it out that it is worth taking time to be like, hey, I'm good at this thing. I can keep improving. Doesn't mean I'm better than other people fundamentally, but I can be good at stuff, and I can be allowed to be good at stuff.
Yeah. And I know so many people who can't take a compliment well. Like it's so hard to take a compliment. And that's definitely a part of that thing of just being like, well, I don't know what to do with those words you just put into my lap. I don't know what to do with that in that way. Hi, I'm really curious, and I'm happy you kind of talked about the kind of, humble parts of the space and trying to learn to be more humble. Do you feel like you've gotten better at that now that you are running an organization and trying to have to set the example for other parts of the team and the organization in that way?
Yeah, for sure. It's like I said before, like, you have to take a lot of self-introspection and take a look at yourself, what you're doing. Even if I'm, someone's boss, that doesn't mean I'm better than them. I hire them for a reason. I want them to do a job, and I'm confident in them in doing that job because I can't do that job, right? Like if someone's on my team, it's because they're doing something I can't. And you need to be able to work together with different people to make that goal a success, right? So there's no reason for me to think I'm better than anyone else, or even if like we're doing the same thing, I can perfectly be fine thinking that I'm great at it without having to bring that person down. And I wish people would have that mentality where like they can like psych themselves up, they can love themselves, they can like be like, yes, I'm the shit at this, right? And they don't have to tear other people down for that. And it's a good thing to do that. Like more people should be happy with the things that they do, confident with the things they do. That doesn't mean that you think you're better than others. That doesn't mean you're bringing down others. It just means you're happy with yourself and what you're doing. And it's a hard mentality to have that though, because oftentimes when you're doing that and you're building yourself up, people love to try and take you down when you're doing that. And why people are like that, I don't know. People are wild. But, you know, for everyone out there that's like, you know, gassing themselves up, I'm fully behind y'all. Like, support yourself. You do you. Keep killing it, you know?
I think it's because, you know, from a young age, competition is what's focused on us, right? And not collaboration. And so competition ends up that you're always competing and feeling like you're chasing each other. And so that if I'm going to talk about something I'm doing that I think I'm doing well, someone else has to call out, well, this other person's doing it better than you, or this other person. And it's like, that's not what this is about at all. It doesn't have to be that way, especially on the internet where we can all be supportive. You know, I know you're having a bad day, Khalif, but like I tweeted earlier this week about how much positivity I've seen in our peer sector, I feel, of people doing amazing things, and us all coming out to be like, you really are doing something amazing. That's great. And not being threatened by, you know, Dan Reicher's podcast doing so well. That's awesome. I'm so excited for him and Mary and Mike. Like that's what it's all about. Like, it's not about the fact that I am worried about what it would do to my show. My show will be fine. Everything's going to be okay. There's a million podcasts. Everybody's going to be okay. It's about supporting each other in those moments and not taking it as an attack.
Well, I think, and I'll add to that, I think the thing that I've learned over the past at least 4 or 5 years is that because we as human beings, and especially folks who are, you know, we're all competitive in our own ways. Like, even if we're all friends and doing stuff and having our own projects and all those kinds of things, we all are still trying to be the best at what we're doing in that moment. And a lot of times people just don't say that thing to each other. And you never know just how much that can actually push a person if they're feeling down, or, you know, like how I said, you know, hype people up and get them amped about themselves. And I think that also is a fantastic thing to kind of lean into, because again, there is the balance of the internet is so much weighted towards the negative side of conversation that people get surprised when you're nice to other people, and people get surprised when you're happy for other people's you know, joy or for their accomplishments. I'm
gonna tell you, Americans are way better at it.
Are we really?
Oh my, so much better. Yeah, I remember when I first moved to America, which is 6 years ago now, and I would just see men compliment each other, just be like, "You look great today, dude," and I was like, this is allowed here? It's so nice. I feel like it's like very, very driven out of people in Australia, and I think the UK as well, is like no compliments, all cynical, all sarcastic, all the time. And it was really confronting when I first moved to have people be so nice. Like, oh, this is actually very positive. And it's got this kind of stigma, I think, in those two countries on some occasions, where it's considered like lame, where it's like being nice is uncool. And I hope that that's changing. Like, it's definitely nice to see, you know, especially men just be nice to each other, because I feel like women are more often in general. And it's like, you know, that there's all these stigmas against men, A, being emotional, or B, complimenting other men. And it seems like that is becoming a lot easier.
Yeah, it feels like it's moving in a more positive direction in some bigger ways and kind of more profound ways. I think that it's still a space where,
like, you complimenting Paris on his cooking all the time, for example.
I hate that man. But the funny thing about that is that, you know, even, you know, offline and online, we're constantly hyping each other up. Like, you know, it brings me nothing but joy to see him, you know, especially knowing that we were going to quit some years ago.
For everyone watching, Paris is a friend of all of ours who works in the content creation space as well.
Absolutely. And you know, seeing that be a part of his journey now and seeing him blow up in the ways that he's been blowing up, I'm like, man, I'm happy for him, because that just again, it reinforces the conversations that we've been talking about today about, you know, how do you find spaces to see things in the world that you find are great, and then talk about that and pull some of that energy into your own personal experiences as well, which I think again is really important. For the room, a question for each of you is, how are you tallying your wins, or are you? Is that a thing that you're actively doing? Are you actively kind of taking that introspective moment that Hai was talking about and saying, you know, I've been busting my behind for gosh knows how long, and I feel like this thing that I did was a win, and I need to take a moment to check that box and say, you know what? Damn it, Greg. Damn it, Alana. Damn it, Hai. I did a great thing. I did a great thing today. Are you taking time in your day to kind of do that for yourself? I'm going to start that off with Hi.
I wouldn't say like on a daily basis I like hype myself up or anything like that. I just feel like as a whole, I'm pretty happy with where I am in life, like my current life situation, what I do for a living, who I live with, the cats I have. I'm pretty happy here. So I would say I don't need to think about like counting my wins or thinking about like what makes me happy, just because the environment that I have here and like what I'm doing makes me happy already. So it's pretty easy for me. Maybe not so much for other people's, but I'm pretty, happy with where I am. So
Alana, what about you?
I'm honestly pretty similar in that, like you said before, Hi, like I am a person who is just generally pretty happy. And again, that does come from tremendous privilege. I know that too. Like that's the circumstance that I'm in, is that I don't have to struggle to eat. But in terms of counting wins, so I don't do that. I am a very driven person and I know what I want to do. But I don't look at not accomplishing it in a certain time frame as a failure. I just go, here's the goal. I will work at it. And then maybe the goal shifts as I work at whatever the goal is. Like, up until I started working at Santa Monica Studio, it was write a video game. And so I had been, participating in game jams. I did some consulting. I wrote on some games that I will be able to announce one that I wrote on pretty soon, but still NDAs.
Is that an E3 announcement? Or are you teasing an E3 announcement?
It's my own E3 press conference.
I know some people. We can get it. We can get you 5 minutes. You can come on. You can.
I basically just set myself goals, and a lot of them are lists. So part of trying to get a job in AAA video game writing was like, finish this amount of books, finish this amount of screenplays, finish this amount of short stories type thing. And that's the thing that I think is really important for me also in the content creation space is, I knew that I wanted to start a podcast on my channel, and I had an idea of what I wanted that to be. But I don't look at those things as, I want my podcast to have this many views. I don't look at, I want this many subscribers, I want this many viewers. It's more of a like, right now, a content creation goal for me is to play through the entire Resident Evil series as a recorded thing. I'm not positive that I'll do that because I don't tend to like recording and playing through entire games. Like I like playing them by myself. This one, I'm having a lot of fun doing it. So that's the kind of goals that I set myself so that I have a sense of accomplishment that is achievable. I write wash hair on my to-do lists. Like I literally everything.
I mean, me too.
Everything counts, right?
Cross it off and feel like you did something.
Same.
But I just make sure that stuff is not tied to other people's control. I wouldn't have this many followers, make this much money, get sponsored by these people. I don't try to think about things that are outside of my control. I try to think about things that I actually can have input on. And if I don't accomplish them, it's always something that I'm like, well, but I'll just keep working at it. And yeah, if my goal changes and I don't want to accomplish that thing in the future, then that's okay. Like I can change my mind. It's fine. And I think that is a thing that people can get caught up on where, reinforcing your own accomplishments can get nasty, especially when you're competing with other people, being like, oh, I want to host this many events. I would love to host something related to an E3 press conference outside of IGN. I've never done that before. I'd love to do that, but I'm never going to look at it as something I need to do this year. And that if my friends are doing it or people I know are doing it, that it means they took that away from me. I'll just do it later. They'll just do it at some other point. It'll be fine. So achievable goals, a lot of goals, to-do lists. I love them.
Greg, are you counting your wins? Or are you taking time to kind of do that introspective work?
No. And I think that's a problem sometimes, right? It goes back to what we're talking about of how self-deprecating everybody can be, right? And the fact that there is that, collaboration versus competition thing, which is great. But again, that's a choice as well. And I think it's something everybody works on in their own way. And so it does become a keeping up with the Joneses, where you see a friend doing something and you're like, am I doing enough? Is this happening? It is, being on the internet and being pooped on and having that weigh you down. It is, like Alana saying, like, I think part of the whole content creation and the mantra of it for me, right, is like, you can't sit there and be like, I want this many subs, I want this many views. That is what I will judge success by. Because again, like Alana saying, it's out of your control. For me, it's always like, I want the show to be the best it can be, meaning that when we're like, all right, cool, until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you, and we cut, I go, man, we just crushed it. That was a great show, because that show will find an audience. And as Kind of Funny's proven, from day one with us, it's not about finding the largest audience by any stretch of the imagination. I don't want to have 10 million people in our YouTube channel that are not on the same page. I prefer having the small community we have that is on the same page, moving towards the same goals, lifting each other up, supporting us, supporting each other, making, it goes out from there. And so there are plenty of days where, especially at the end of the day, I find as I run out of energy, that's when I start to get more emotionally raw. And I will see things, or I will see a comment, or I will see a tweet at me that I then mute. But that's what catches me and puts me off course, right? And so it is what I was talking about, the whole step away from Twitter, stop reading the subreddit, blah, blah, blah. Like that was happening to me today, where I was just like, and I'm exhausted. It's been a great week of work, but an exhausting week of work. And so, like I come off the streams today of doing Games Daily and then the Mass Effect stream. And that's 4.5 hours of content back to back. And I'm just tired. And I saw something and it's that thing of like putting it down and looking at my pregnant wife, looking at my 16-year-old wiener dog, right? Looking at, like in 1 month, I will be hosting E3, which is so far and away beyond anything I thought I'd be doing when I entered the industry in 2007, right? Like there are those moments where you have to do the same thing I was talking about, see the forest for the trees, like step back and to take in the bigger picture. And that's hard for everybody to do, whether it is as easy as stepping back and be like, man, I have a great job, or man, I have a great pet, or I have a cool car, like whatever it is to get you out of your funk and realize life isn't bad. It's tough.
Yeah. I love that. Hi, I'm curious about, now moving into, again, this kind of leadership role. How are you kind of setting the table for your organization in this way, in terms of conversations around, making sure folks' mental health is in good spaces, and kind of, we've all been parts of teams where you have negative aspects to, people that you work with as coworkers. Circumstances are always changing, especially when you run a business. Things are always weird when it comes to multiple layers of the ecosystem. How are you kind of making sure that your team is in a good space mentally and working through things in a positive way?
Right. Well, I think a bit of that comes with like when you have a friend group, right? Generally, your friend group are going to share similar personality traits or qualities as you are. And I think that can somewhat apply to jobs and stuff as well, as long as you're the person in charge. Like if you're in the person in charge of hiring people, like, yes, you want to get qualified people, but there's a lot of qualified people out there. How do you choose which one? And you kind of just build the environment you want, right? If I'm going to build a team of players, say for Valorant or something, for example, right? And one guy is toxic, but he's like radiant or like whatever. And one guy is positive and he's like radiant. It makes a lot of sense for me to pick the positive guy, right? So we have a lot of power to kind of shape the work environment that we want, and we make sure that it's something that we keep mindful of. Like obviously I can't take care of people's mental health for them. I can be a resource, I can give them resources, but at the end of the day, it's something that they have to take care of, and I have to do my best to create a good environment so it doesn't make those things negative. There are going to be days where people are going to be down, right? And like, I can't do anything about that. They might not be able to do something about that, but at the very least, the job that they're doing or the work they're doing, we're not going to make it worse, right? If they need time off, that's perfectly fine as well. But it's about creating an environment that you're happy to work in and that other people are happy to work in too. And luckily, I get to create that environment. So I'm just mindful about that when I'm picking up players or picking up people for the team and staff.
Yeah. There was a great question from the chat. Zachy Boy asks, how do you cope or deal with feeling alone? That's the thing that happens often when, you're starting to feel less positive about the space that you're in, and feeling like you're kind of down and people aren't really giving you that support. Greg, I'll throw that question to you first. How do you deal with or cope with that feeling of being alone?
I think it's different for every person. For me, I think it's that embracing that feeling for a second and realizing it's fleeting, and that of course you're not alone, right? Like there is family, you have friends, you have even if you had neither of those, right? You for us would have the Kind of Funny best friend community of people you can go talk to on a subreddit or a Discord, or like-minded individuals in your favorite game that you could pop on and do it. But I think it's important to embrace that, because it's just like every other negative thought we're talking about and negative thought we're having, where it gets in there, and no matter how happy you've been all day, that'll be the one that gets under your skin. That's the one that sticks to you. And it's that thing that never goes away. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. You know, I'm married and have a whole bunch of friends and yada, yada, yada. Like, I still have those moments where I feel so alone, right? Where it is like you're dealing with something. And I think it actually goes back to what we were talking about on the last episode with therapy, right? It's about talking. This was the conversation, the question I asked, right? Of like, why can you sit here in your head and wrestle a problem and it feels like it's £1,000,000, but as soon as you express it to someone and they give you just a little bit of feedback, you start to feel that weight lift. Like, that's a big part of it. So even if you were alone, right, there are so many hotlines. There's so many different people you can talk to. You know, we talk about findyourwords.org all the time for mental health resources you can go be a part of. Like, those exist. Those are normal feelings. And I think it's about embracing and then going, okay, what do I do with this?
Alana, what are your thoughts on that?
Something about my particular chemical brain makeup means that I never really feel lonely. Even if I am alone, it's just not something that I ever feel. I think that I'd be pretty happy being a hermit and not seeing anyone, and I would be okay. The downside to that is family is really important to me. So I think that that's probably a thing that, again, a massive privilege is I'm very close to my family. My mom and my dad may as well be two best friends who are very different people, but I can talk to them on the phone for an hour and, you know, have a laugh. And it's not all the just interrogations I know some of my other friends get. So I'm hugely benefited by that. That said, I kind of have a problem that relates to this that I've still not figured out my answer to and don't feel equipped to give advice on, is that I think I have a habit of getting too sucked into being alone. I'm completely fine being by myself. I often have health problems that can prevent me from seeing people, and I'm definitely a little bit socially awkward. So I think that sometimes, you know, in the real world, I probably have the opposite problem of not going out of my way to socialize often enough. And it's something that I've tried to fix, because otherwise I will just go into a hole of working constantly. And I think, you know, when your only output is work all the time, you can lose sense of yourself. That's at least the problem I've had, is I'm like, if I'm just creating things constantly, who am I? That was kind of a thing that I went through last year for sure, was like, just in this apartment by myself, not seeing anybody, working all day. I don't know what I'm doing here or why I'm doing this. So it's the opposite problem, is like too okay with being lonely that I'm trying to figure out how to balance. But I mean, that's the thing, is all this stuff's a spectrum. Everyone feels differently in completely different ways about this kind of thing. And definitely something I'm still figuring out. I have not nailed it yet, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
I don't, not to sidetrack from this entire thing, but this brings me to an interesting question about mental health I was thinking about the other day, right?
Yeah.
Stick with me, because it's a walk like always. But I remember distinctly at IGN for Podcast Beyond episode 200. It was the first time we had live audience there. At the end of it, it was all over, and one of the fans was crying. And I was like, "Is everything okay? What's wrong?" And he's like, "No, it's just, this is so special. This is so beautiful." And I had that moment of like, "Oh my God!" Like, I was so focused on doing it and getting it done and yada, 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 that I never took a moment to appreciate it and live in the moment. And so, like, for Beyond 300 and then all the Kind of Funny lives since then, I do that, where I actually have that moment where I try to sneak off and see it from a fan's perspective or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But something I was thinking about this week, where we've had that, me and Jen and I had the conversation upstairs, like, man, this week is flown by. It's Thursday. For everybody here, when you're creating content, whether it be playing a game on stream, whether it be esports, whether it be making the shows we do for podcasts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, do you take a moment to appreciate that? We're talking about counting your wins, right? But like, I've noticed that I literally feel, and I know what the Adam Sandler Click movie, where my day starts and I'm so focused on, I'm going to nail this. This is my job. I'm nailing this podcast. After this, I go to this. After this, I make a document. Then I do this. And then we get to dinner and I have that moment of like, 8.5 hours just flew by. And at no point did I embrace what was going on. Like, I hope I did well, and I know I made good shows, but I'm like some kind of work terminator where I'm like a lot, right? Where I'm just like so on the mission, I'm not enjoying it, if that makes sense, in a weird way, even though I like doing what I do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have that a lot, especially because I'm balancing both all of those things and a 9-to-5 job.
Right.
So it's like one of those weird things where it takes a long time to gather up the space to say, so what actually happened today? And how was I feeling when those things were going on? And was I kind of in the moment, or was I kind of pushing through to make sure that I wasn't going to lose it? Right. You're not going to drop a thing, or you're not going to miss a thing out. So it's hard. like that thing is super difficult to be able to kind of take that time to even do that part. And
I don't think I do it.
Yeah.
I think that I just keep going.
Yeah.
I don't really stop and think about it. I will say, like, my day job definitely has moments where I'm like, this is the coolest thing in the world, but I can't talk about any of that. There are a lot of times that what I do.
Go ahead, tell us
I'm
what's
just gonna listen. It's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
Just get fired live. It'll be great. No, but it definitely does have a lot of those things where, like, quite often I'm really inspired and I'm like, oh my god, I get to do this, and I just hope that I keep having that feeling. But as mentioned earlier on the stream, I get to go home, and nothing makes me happier than being at home. So that's almost like something that I get to look forward to, where it's almost like this entire country, the entire United States is an office. But when I go to Australia, I give myself a little bit of time off. I'll go swim in the ocean. My mom and I are going to go whale watching.
Nice.
Like, I actually feel like I kind of exist when I go home. But again, I haven't figured it out yet. How about you, Hai? Do you have a advice for that kind of balance?
I would say, I think it's perfectly okay to just feel like a cog in the wheel sometimes, right? You only have so much energy every day to focus on, yourself or your family or whatever the thing may be. Some days you just want to, just be a cog spinning, doing your job, etc. But like you said, it's definitely important to not be like that all the time. You have to think about, if you're making content, how do you want that content to affect other people's lives? Because this is what you're doing it for, right? Whether you're playing games for a living, whether you're making a podcast, people are going to listen and people are going to watch. How do you want that content to affect them? And that should shape how you do your content, how you make your content. But at the same time, you can't spend all your energy every single day making sure that what you're doing is perfect. You just have to go through the motions sometimes, right? Unfortunately, we're humans, right? We get tired. We have to take breaks. You kind of just have to do your job sometimes. And even if you love your job, it's still a job that you should do at times, right? So I think it's perfectly fine to have those days where you just, where'd the day go kind of thing,
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, it's so
gone.
funny.
All right, bye.
It happened. It's already done. It's already there. I mean, and also I kind of share the same sentiment about the kind of thing we talked about before, and I'm in that Alana camp too, where it's just like I'm so used to being alone, even though I'm have a spouse and people who are around me, like my family. We never really have gotten together and really have stayed in touch. I don't have many friends in my friend group. That's very, very small. And we don't even talk that much. So it is really weird where the conversation is wind up moving from do you feel lonely to you're not an island, which is the thing that I had beaten to my head during therapy. Not literally, but there might have been a foam bat here or there. But it was one of those things where that was like my mantra for at least a year, was like, you are not an island. You are not an island. You need to figure out ways to express those things and feel those things and say those things out to people, so that you don't just hold it all in and have a space for it. So that was a really good thing to kind of come to grips with and find in that way. For all of you, I think one of the things that we have so many different folks. Again, thank you all for watching on all our various channels: Spawnami channel, Alana's channel, and Kind of Funny's channel. Some great sentiments being shared in all of those chats currently. For folks who are listening at home, if there was a thing that you would want to share with them to say, this is one of the tools in my toolbox to stay positive, and one of the things that I kind of lean on as a potential and hopeful recommendation for folks, what would that thing be that you would want to share as your kind of go-to positivity move?
I'm always
go ahead,
sorry, I feel very strongly about this. I'm always a little bit hesitant to say it because I understand that it's not possible for everyone, and it doesn't necessarily, it's not a cure-all. Exercise helps me so much. If I'm having a bad day and I go to the gym, it's 30 minutes or an hour or whatever that I spend to myself, generally weightlifting, that I just become so focused. It's almost like a therapy. And I found that anytime that my mental health or that I'm really stressed or I'm having trouble with anything mentally, just working out, getting those pheromones, getting my body moving, and being connected helps me so much. Again, I know that doesn't apply to everyone, but I feel like the relationship for me has been so important. And the same applies to eating healthy. And that one is a little bit more scientific, I think. I'm sure our chat psychiatrist will tell me if I'm wrong about this. But, putting good things into your body tends to give you the ability to put out good things, I think, too. So, making sure that you're getting nutrients, that you're not even just overeating and feeling congested all the time and hurting your heart and getting acid reflux. Like, there's so many things negatively that you can do to yourself by just eating too much McDonald's, which I love, for the record. I had a McFlurry last night. Not saying
what'd you mix in it? What'd you mix in it?
Double M&M.
Yes.
Oh, the M&M.
This is why we're cool. This is why you're my people. This is why you're my people.
Just don't do it too much.
Wait,
Hi,
what are you saying? No M&Ms, or are you an Oreo? Because if you're an Oreo man,
I'm the Oreo guy.
Yeah, you are.
Every time I get M&M, I regret it after, because you do a couple bites, it's good, but then it's too much M&M. Whereas the Oreo is like a good mix. I can never finish the M&M McFlurry, whereas the Oreo when I can finish. So it's just kind of like, I feel like there's just too many M&Ms, and like it overtakes the taste of the vanilla and the ice cream. It's just like, if I want M&Ms, I'll just get a bag of M&Ms.
That's a thorough answer.
Yeah.
Presence of Mind, the #1 McFlurry podcast.
Here's what you gotta do: not get full for your M&Ms. But I did want to note that our psychiatrist, who we do have access to in chat, did say I was all clear. That I'm allowed to tell you to eat healthy. But he did also mention that a daily schedule really helps, and that is definitely ties into my to-do lists. I wouldn't be surprised if I spoke to a therapist about that specifically, and they told me that it is why I'm generally very positive. Is, again, I have wash hair on my to-do list today. I do all of it, so then I cross it off, and I'm like, cool, I did something. So he said, waking up, taking a coldish shower, and then getting 15 minutes sunshine before starting your day has been research proven to make people happier in their day. That does sound lovely.
That's
you
not
have
bad.
Too much faith in me.
For people that like this,
Greg, what is your go-to for
I think it's when I start to feel the negativity creep in, right, and it'll take me away from it. Usually, it's at somebody else's hand, right, and so not hand, but you know what I mean, words, right. And so a big part of that is stepping back, taking a breath, and telling yourself, like, it's not worth it. Like, why let this person who doesn't know me ruin my day? Like, I'm not going to be able to change their opinion, because it's never asking me why I didn't like something, or talking to me, or fact checking me. Like, that's never going to get me angry. It's when you're just coming at me, when you're clearly looking for a fight. And if you've already escalated to that thing, we were never going to be friends. We were never going to have a conversation. And so you're just not worth my time. And so if I start to see a comment, or I start to see someone on the internet push me that way, I stop and I move on, because there's nothing to do. There's no winning that. I'm not going to turn the tides there.
Yeah. Hi, what's your thoughts on that? What's your go-to move for getting some positivity in the space really quick?
I would say, for me, I'm a very extroverted person. I'm very social. I love talking to people. I love playing games with people. I love going outside and doing things. So if I'm feeling down or, lonely or something like that, I'll just reach out to my friends or my significant other and be like, hey, you want to play a game? You want to go play some tennis? You want to get some food or something? I haven't been able to do this the last part recently because of COVID. Like, I can't go out and get food. Now it's getting a bit better with everyone getting their COVID shots. I've had my second shot for a while now. It's getting clear to go get food with your friends again. That's like one of my favorite activities to do, whether it be like going somewhere with my friends, just talking with them, eating with them, drinking, or karaoke, something like that. Just spending time with them is something I find a lot of fun in. So not everyone can do that. So maybe for them, play a game, go be a part of a community. Like, there's a ton of communities out there nowadays, right? The internet has provided us so much positive things from it. Yes, there are negative things from social media as well, but it kind of is what you make out of it, right? You can use Discord to join a community. You can use Facebook, I guess, to find friends. I don't know if people actually do that. But you have Facebook for your friends from high school, etc. You have the power to reach out to people if that's what you want to do, to make friendships, to meet people. You said earlier you're on an island where you don't, have people there, but you can open your island to others, right? You're allowed to bring people there. You're allowed to have a peer there where they can come visit you, or you can leave your island and come back to it at a later time. It just takes effort to want to do that. And for people that don't want to do that and just want to be on their own, there's plenty of solo player games that you can do, or books that you can read, or walks you can do, a lot of hobbies that you can do on your own. It just kind of comes down to what makes you happy and how can you go about doing it, It just takes effort, honestly, which sometimes is hard to do.
No doubt. It's super hard. I mean, my go-to at this point is I listen to some music. Music is the thing that will usually get me through. Throw on some De La Soul and
what's
just
your
vibe
current
out.
bop? If I were to ask you to play a song right now, what would you bang for the stream?
Oh man, I would put on Break of Dawn by De La Soul. That's like an old school joint that puts me in that beautiful, like chilled out early 90s vibe because I'm an old man. That's right. So the stuff like that, again, those things bring me back to a space of remembering just how happy I was, being back home in New York and seeing the sun roll down the middle of Fifth Avenue, walking home from work one day. Like that kind of stuff, it brings back those memories. So it's always something that feels super, super good. For all of you at home, if you're looking for ways to, again, connect with more resources, you can go to findyourwords.org. Again, it's a fantastic site and you'll be able to go check out so many awesome conversations and data points and ways to kind of dig into and find good ways to add some more tools to your toolbox. And when you're over there, go to findyourwords.org/presence of mind. We're doing our Mental Health Matters interactive video. It is up there. You can go check it out. You can go watch it. And if you do and you complete it, you'll get 10% off, a 10% discount to the Cloud9 store, where you can get a chance to win one of five C9 Secret Lab chairs. The giveaway winners will be announced during our Thursday, May 27th stream. So you may want to enter, you can enter the giveaway up to 2 times. Those chairs are dope too. They look super, super cool.
Very cool.
Super, super cool. So if you watch it, you'll be able to, check out some conversations around how mental health is connected to your total health, the importance of making mental health a priority, and how to find available resources to help as well. So again, go check out that stuff. See if you can get your butt in one of those chairs. It's really nice. It is super, super cool. And we're almost out of time for our show, but I do want to say, again, it is fantastic to see all of us kind of dig into this in a real way. There's been so many nice, awesome comments from everybody in our individual chats today. It's so cool to see so many folks give it up and give that positive vibe to everybody else in the space. Hi, I want to give you a minute really quick to share, where people can find all of your work, where people can find all the cool stuff that you're doing and getting into. Give the folks at home a little bit of a love from you.
Yeah, no problem. It's pretty easy to find me. You can either look me up on Twitter. It's just HAI, hi, my name. I got a 3-letter one. It's actually super nice. Otherwise, it's going to be Simply Hi, which is just spelled as is, simply, and then my name. I'm not very creative, if I'm going to be honest. My game name has never had anything in them except for my name.
I envy that. It's a good idea.
Yeah, it's nice and simple. You can search Hi. You can search Hi League of Legends. I'm out there. So it's pretty simple.
Nice.
I did see someone mention earlier. This is from PC Santos in the Cloud9 chat that said, I remember at Simply Hi once said he shot calls with the belief that his team is better no matter who he's with and who he's against, because if he doesn't, it affects his ability to lead. Mm-hmm. Is that a thing you remember saying?
Obviously, I don't remember saying that verbatim because
it probably isn't verbatim.
I've definitely said a lot of things, but I did live by that mantra, because if you're going to start a competitive game, right, but you're already putting yourself 5 feet behind the starting line, it's really hard to come back from that. So even if, people say the enemy team or the enemy player is better than you, you thinking that yourself, personally, that didn't help me at all. Me thinking that I'm better, me thinking that my team is better and that we will win definitely helped me, because say, for example, even if they are better, right? They're humans. They make mistakes. They're not robots. Maybe there are some computers that can beat you in games, but more often than not, the people you're playing versus are humans, and they're gonna make mistakes. They are not unfallible. They're easy to tilt. They're easy to prone to get punished, right? So you go into that game doing what you think is best. How are we going to win? And we're going to do that. If they outplay us, fine. But we're going to go in there thinking that we can win, and we're going to try our hardest to win, regardless of whoever it is.
Yeah, I just thought it was a really interesting anecdote, especially where leading is concerned, is that you really do have to believe in your team, even if it's statistically unlikely, because if you don't, then even the minor chance that they'll win becomes smaller.
Mm-hmm. I think there's a thing in animals where they can feel fear, or whoever they're following, in wolf pack, for example. The leader of the wolf pack has to have confidence in that kind of thing. I actually met some wolves and did the thing with Red Bull, where I met a wolf and they explained how
Actually, Meta Wolf? What?
Yeah. There's like I don't know what it was, but Red Bull brought us out when we were still part of Cloud9, and we met wolves, and they taught us about like how wolf pack functions and like how the alpha wolf, they're an alpha when they're born. They're not like voted in, they're just born that way. And basically that says that they have to lead a certain way. They know how to lead a certain way. They are going to like do X, Y, and Z, and people are going to follow them. It's much easier to follow someone that's confident in what they're doing rather than someone that's being wishy-washy, right? Like if I'm going down a pathway and there's a left and right, if I instantly go left, most people won't doubt that. But if I'm standing there for 15 minutes thinking about it, they're gonna be like, I wonder what he's thinking. Is this the right choice? But if I just go straight for it, they're gonna be like, he knows where he's going, kind of thing. So it definitely plays into that, at least when it comes to games.
What was it like meeting wolves?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I don't like big dogs at all. I'm not a very big person. I'm generally kind of afraid of them. I've seen like videos and all that kind of stuff. I know dogs generally aren't harmful or anything like that, but you know, like a wolf is a different story, right? Don't they like?
I would have been scared.
They're apex predators, I'm pretty sure. So like, I was pretty scared at first. Yeah. Like they said we could pet them and things like that too, but it took me quite a while to get the courage up to get close to them. But it's pretty sick.
That's how those alphas want you to feel.
Yeah, they're pretty intimidating. I'm not gonna.
You are much braver than I am, for sure.
I am a cat person. I have 2 cats. I love cats. I'm a cat person.
Oh my goodness. So before we get up out of here, Alana and Greg, give the folks at home a little bit of info where they can find you and the rest of your work. Alana?
That's me. Hi, I'm at Charizard on everything. Again, I wish that I had just used my name, but it is my name in the middle of Charizard. I've not been streaming much or doing much other than trying to upload Resident Evil videos lately because, I've been getting ready to go home. I'm going to spend 2 weeks in a box. Hopefully, my internet connection will be okay for the next show, which is, of course, on May 29th at 5:30 p.m. PT. Hoping so, but internet and a hotel. We'll find out. So that's mostly what I'm up to right now, but do have an ongoing charity campaign where I'm trying to raise $50,000 for Able Gamers, which is an organization that basically helps facilitate people with all different kinds of disabilities figure out what they need to play video games, what kind of games they want to play, and then find the options that make that more accessible for them. So I'm trying to raise $50,000 by September, and I think we're at 18,000 now. So still working on that. Awesome. All of my streams are going towards that. So yeah, any help with that, doesn't even have to be through my fundraiser, obviously, is very helpful to that community.
Greg?
I'm Greg Miller, and in 1 month, I'm hosting E3 alongside Jackie and Alex, and we can't wait to show you all sorts of cool stuff. Thank you, Hi. Outside of that, of course, you can find me at Kinda Funny, youtube.com/KindaFunnyGames, twitch.tv/KindaFunnyGames, each and every weekday, making new video game content, podcasts, playing games, doing Kinda Funny Games daily, and bringing you the news of what's happening in the video game world. So anytime you want to leak something, Alana, just let us know.
I'm good. Thank you, though. I appreciate it. But
offers on the table.
I'm all right, but thank you. Thank you. It means a lot.
You have my number. You can send me things. Anyway, you can find me at Kajakins at Spawn on Me, where we do the Spawn on Me podcast here on my channel, twitch.tv/Spawn on Me, and Presence of Mind every other Thursday is where we get to convene and hang out and talk about more of the issues and conversations around giving you some tools to better your mental health. So again, thank you all for rocking on all of our channels today. We hopefully we will be doing that again next time, because it was awesome to see all the conversations that were happening and all the wonderful comments. So again, thank you so much for being here. We'll see you all in 2 weeks. See you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.